Okay, today we've got the Valvoline VO-58 oil filter. It's an Australian model interchangeable Ryco Z160. I don't think these, I haven't found many places where these actually commonly available from, but this is actually from Bunnings. They keep two types of oil filters there, this one and an element type one. So I'm interested to see how the filter actually is. They advertise these as a multi-fit filter where they've designed them even more than usual to fit more vehicles than a standard filter would, which is not normally a good thing. The box, Valvoline, Ashleen USA. Got the instructions on there. Do not pre-fill. Now let's see what we've actually got. Got product of USA and a date code, patent. Same stuff that's on the box really. It's got an interesting grip on there. Something that you would actually be able to grip quite well with your fingers. In terms of total filter weight, 188 grams, so it's a fairly light filter. Not a lot in it. On the top we've got this very interesting flat, pretty much sheet metal plate there. Be interesting to see what's under there. Got that sealing ring. Does fit in there pretty well. It's got these little notches on there, so you can locks it in there and holds it in there tight. It's pretty nice, flexible too. The O-ring's not bad. Very interested to see what's in there. Indeed, we'll cut it open and see what we got. Okay, so we've got to cut apart cut the edge off with the tin snips as usual, but this was very soft, very thin. It's the easiest one that I've ever cut for sure. So in terms of the base plate, it's a little bit more metal in there than I expected in the thickness of that part. It's a nice decent amount of holes. They're not the biggest, but they would do. Not quite sure what the purpose of this very thin bit of metal at the top is. It must be to strengthen the can being very thin. Got 4 threads there. They seem to be fairly well alright. This does have a bit of stuff on my thumb there. I don't know if you can see all that. That's from the inside of this filter. Quite sure what that is. Look at the canister itself. Looks like we're looking at about 0.4 mil, so that's very thin. To give you an idea, this is a Fleet Guard car engine one. And on there, we look at it about 0.6, and that's sturdy. This is very flimsy can indeed. Not strong at all. Very easy to cut through. Right, the filter itself. There's some sketchy stuff indeed. Spring just sits in there. And that is so light. If I put that on there, pretty much not even getting a reading, like 0.2. That is so thin and flimsy. And when I open this didn't spring up at all. It's just got no spring in it. That's sort of just, I don't see how that serves any purpose, that spring. And there's no proper seal around there either. That's just sitting on there. The drain back valve. That's not bad. That's got a bit more there sitting in it. It's nice and soft. It's not the worst. It doesn't seal over there very nicely. That's not a nice fit. Doesn't sit down. I would say that wouldn't work very well as a drain back valve. Anti-drain back valve, I would say that if that was upside down on a car, that would just leak out. But it seals pretty nicely in there. Sits in there pretty well. That's not bad. Now this is what I would say you do not want to see on a filter. I've got an E-core, just plastic in there. This, whatever rubbish that is, like cardboard, I think. No rubber seal or nothing in there, and these plates are evenly spaced. I think that's meant to be where they're glued together. Yep. Got a bit of excess glue on the plates there. And that plastic center tube, as you would be aware, a lot of normal filters have metal on the inside here that meant pressed steel center tube, which is nice, gives it good strength, and there's very little issue with that ever breaking. But there has been stories of guys with these E-core filters, they get a bit too much pressure. There's no bypass valve on this filter, or if it is, it's designed to be part of this spring action where that seals on there. And I'm sorry to say, but that spring is going to hardly have any give in it. So when it gets too much pressure in it, these plates break apart and these plastic beads come out, and it goes past them. All those break and it goes through out into the engine. Boom, it's dead. So certainly not good at all. So we'll cut that filter apart and see what the media's like. There doesn't look to be much glue on the ends there, but right, so I got the media cut out, come in at about 1.1 meters long and only about 53 millimeters wide, so that has got pretty much such a little element in it. Like that, this big can has got less filter element in it than this thing does. I reckon that's like half the size. So not much in it at all. I've got this stuff on there, whatever it is. It looks a bit purple, almost like oil. It's nothing too fancy about that, just standard cellulose. We can have a look under the microscope, see what that looks like. Right, and so I also have to say that this media, after looking at it under the microscope, I would say that it's pretty bad quality as well. There's not much density to it. It would not be trapping a lot of particles It's very fragile, so I think it would be prone to break easy, and it's not going to filter to a very high micron level, so it's going to get a lot of stuff past your engine. In terms of the ends here, it's pretty bad uneven spacing there. This stuff is hardly even cardboard, it just feels like felt. It's that dodgy. And there's some of them that they weren't hardly even glued, like they just pulled straight off with a bit of tension. And then at the ends, there was no metal crimp or nothing, they were just glued. Spiral center tube, that's not even attached anywhere, so that just literally sits between those two with no glue or nothing. And that is not, it's got a fair bit of, not the strongest. So I'd say this have to be one of the worst filters that I cut open for sure. Valve that doesn't seal, tin that's very thin, prone to breakage, hardly any media. Spring that's so thin it hardly reads, it doesn't have any spring in it. Dodgy plastic core that lets the filter pass by it. And caps that are just felt. So I definitely wouldn't be using one of these filters. Certainly something that I would expect from Bunnings for less than $9. So yeah, there you have it. That's the Valvoline VO-58.